Hello, everybody. Welcome to another reaction video to Brightside. So, if you remember a little while back, I said I would think about doing another Brightside reaction video for 600 subs. And I now have 638 subs as of recording this. So I thought I'd keep a promise for once in my life. So today we are reacting to See a World Where the Titanic Never Sank. Now, of course, this is all hypothetical, but I still want to watch the video and see if they've redeemed themselves a little bit. Also, quick note, I've been taking a back burner on videos because I've injured my hand and it's kind of hard to move it. Actually, no, it's pretty hard to move it. So I'm going to let that heal. So I can't really do much with the one fully working hand I have. But I can guarantee you I will try to please you all with my videos. So yeah, let's get into this.
The majestic ship in front of you is bigger than you imagined. The majestic ship in front of you is bigger than you imagined. As you board the Titanic, Captain Edward Smith himself greets you. Your trip will begin shortly.
Yeah.
By the time the liner
It's not
stops
bad.
at
It's not. That's not a bad recreation of him. It's not a good one, but it's not a bad one. I like that.
Captain Edward Smith himself greets you. Your trip will begin shortly.
Friendly.
By the time the liner stops at Cherbourg in Queenstown.
Cherbourg. Cherbourg.
As you board the Titanic, Captain Edward Smith himself greets you. Your trip will begin shortly. By the time the liner stops at Cherbourg in
Cherbourg. Okay, maybe people in France do pronounce it Cherbourg, and I'm just being a dum-dum. To which, if you do, I'm sorry that I'm being a dum-dum. But if you don't, and they actually pronounce it wrong, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Queenstown. Over 2,200 passengers and crew will be on board, embarking on their transatlantic trip. The Titanic is ready to sail, and you hear the horns from the deck as you wave goodbye to the people below.
It sounds I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like a foghorn.
But just a few minutes later, you hear panic rising on the deck. You run up to the railings to see what's going on. It's another ship coming too close.
Oh no.
The side of it says SS City of New York. Titanic has barely left the dock.
I see what they're gonna do.
But it looks like there's about to be a collision. The captain manages to steer clear of the other ship within just a few feet.
Okay, so they didn't really steer clear. I mean, they did. Well, first off, Smith wasn't at the helm. Smith, it was usually the quartermaster's job to be at the helm. I can't remember. I know Hitchens is Robert Hitchens is one of the quartermasters, but I can't remember. Something Rowe, I think. But anyways, Smith wouldn't be at the helm. He would just be ordering. He was at the bridge, and through a bunch of quick-thinking tugs, quick-thinking crew, and basically everything being excellent for the timing, they managed to avoid a collision. So that obviously delayed Titanic by about an hour, I think. Half an hour, 1 hour.
Whew, that was close. The ship is scheduled to arrive in New York a week later on April 17th.
Wait.
It's another ship coming to...
Hang on.
...self greets you. Your trip will begin shortly. By the time the liner stops at
I'm sorry, I'm just
City of New York,
being a dum-dum again.
Titanic has barely left. The ship is scheduled to arrive in New York a week later on April 17th. But that's only if things go according to plan. The weather is clear until Sunday the 14th. As the vessel crosses a cold front, it encounters huge waves and strong winds. That night is quiet but cold. The Titanic starts getting warnings from other ships about drift.
It was still a flat calm, if I'm not mistaken. Well, No, I believe it was a windy day. It was a windy day that day, I think.
Blocks of
So.
ice in the Grand Banks of Newfoundland. But this time, the great ship
We love
doesn't
the
continue to
iceberg day.
travel at full speed. Instead, the captain slows her down. He wants to make sure the lookouts will have plenty of time to spot any icebergs along the way, even if it means arriving in New York behind schedule. It's 11:40 in the evening. Lookout Frederick Fleet spots a colossal iceberg right ahead. He immediately
Okay, I'm just doing a bit of a butterfly effect. This is purely just me being nitpicky, but if they slowed down, it would probably be past 11:40 that they spot the iceberg.
alerts the bridge.
If they slowed down, they might have been out of the course of the iceberg, because drifting, of course. But obviously, don't quote me.
The first officer tells the steersman to go around the iceberg, and the rest of the crew members must stop the engines right away. Everyone on board is working together to avoid the obstacle. But in this story, the steersman doesn't panic. He immediately turns the wheel the right direction away from the iceberg. Everyone on board is working together to avoid the obstacle. But in this story, the steersman doesn't panic.
The way the music just goes from dramatic to happy, and the way he just winks at you and is going like, everything's gonna be okay. It's kind of cute.
Everyone
I like
on board
that.
is working together to avoid the obstacle. But in this story, the steersman doesn't panic.
I like that. That's
He
kind of
immediately
cute.
turns the wheel the right direction away from the iceberg. Many passengers have already been awoken by the commotion and jostling. Some go on the deck in their nightgowns and pajamas to see what's going on. A few peek over the right side of the ship to get a closer look. You and everyone else watch anxiously with white-knuckle grips on the railing.
Oh, God.
The stress and cold make you shiver. You can't help but wonder if the Titanic will collide with the iceberg.
God, stop that gasping sound.
It's getting closer and closer. Onlookers hold their breath. It's so quiet you could hear a pin drop. And then, within a mere inch, the ship slowly sails by the ice monster. There was no contact, no gap ripped in the hull hundreds of feet long that would allow water to flood into the lower
Oh my
compartments.
God.
Everyone starts clapping and hugging
my
each other.
God.
After doing all the necessary checks, the captain officially announces that everything is all right. He invites the passengers on the deck to come inside for a hot cup of tea before they go back to their cabins.
This is music.
You follow the necessary
It's so
checks.
funny, but
The
so
captain-
annoying at
you
the
follow
same
the group
time.
and see the captain leaving to go report the incident. He also alerts other ships in the North Atlantic to slow down.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. This is a better model of the Titanic.
But this time, the
that
great
was
ship
a
doesn't
better
continue to travel at
model
full
of the
speed. Instead, the captain
Titanic.
slows her down. He wants to make sure the lookouts will have plenty of time to spot any icebergs along the way.
Come on. If I can find it. It's not working. I don't know why it's... There. Ah!
If it means arriving in New York behind schedule, continue to travel. Titanic starts getting
That was a
warnings from other
better
ships.
model of the Titanic than this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think
Right. Other ships in the
this
North Atlantic to
is
slow
a
down.
better model of the Titanic than the other one. I'm not gonna lie. Is this supposed to be the Carpathia? Oh God. Please say no, because there is a drawing of the Carpathia, a naval drawing of the Carpathia online.
And be on the lookout. Amongst those ships is the Carpathia.
It is.
No, she
Oh my
continues
God.
on her course. No need to come to Titanic's rescue tonight. RMS Titanic finally reaches its destination on April 17, 1912. It's 8 hours late, but it's safe. Thousands of people come to the New York docks to admire the most luxurious ship in the world. It had a successful first voyage. Before getting off the ship, some passengers exchange addresses to write letters to each other. Like tennis players Richard Norris and Carl Baer. Both were on board the Titanic, but this time, Norris didn't spend hours in the cold water of the North Atlantic trying to
I
help
haven't
other
heard of these
passengers,
two, I'm not gonna lie.
almost losing his legs to hypothermia. And Baer was never on a lifeboat with his girlfriend, where he asked her to marry him. No, this time, He did it with friends.
Give me a sec. Did a Titanic survivor... I'm sorry, I'm typing with one hand. I can't really type with my other one. Did a Titanic survivor propose while in a lifeboat? I see absolutely nothing that says that. Why would you... What?
And family
I'm not...
around,
No, I'm not...
and they
I'm
all
not,
celebrated the engagement.
I'm not even...
The two tennis players end up playing their first match together later in 1912.
This looks like a baseball
Norris became
stadium.
one of the best players of his generation and won the Davis Cup 5 times. Margaret Brown was going back to the
If
U.S.
this goes
to see
into
her
all their
sick
survivor
grandchild.
stories, I might have
This
to go
time,
to
she didn't
another
have to help
video
passengers
because I'm not really... I'm not as familiar with the survivor accounts and whatnot and their backstories as the ship itself.
on lifeboats and never got on lifeboat 6 or 7.
I also hate and love at the same time how they have little rife rafts. Yep. No, life rafts as the lifeboats. While the lifeboats are still over here on the sinking ship.
When Brown gets off the ship, she runs to her grandson's side. This time, she never met the crew or the captain of the Carpathia to give them an honorary silver cup. She kept doing philanthropic work, but she never became known as the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Probably not.
Violet Jessup never liked the
Violet
idea of
Jessup.
sailing in the North Atlantic because she knew how bad the weather could be.
I'm a little bit rusty on Violet Jessup's backstory, so I very well could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure she attempted to go with the Cunard line because she wanted to be on ships. And never did. And after Titanic, she stayed on the Atlantic. Probably on the Atlantic with other ships like the Belgian on world cruises. So if she was afraid of the ocean, I just want to know why she didn't quit her job. She very well might have been afraid of the ocean. I'm just a bit questioning a bit on that.
She was cautious, having just survived a crash a few months earlier. It was on the Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic. But her friends can sailing in the North Atlantic because she knew how bad the weather could be. She was cautious, having just survived a crash a few months earlier. It was on...
Okay, they don't depict the ship sinking fully. But if the ship sinks in reality that far, I'm fairly certain it's a physical, mathematical certainty that it's gonna sink. The only thing I feel like that's right about this is that it's sinking stern first. Olympic very well nearly did sink from that collision. I believe one more compartment flooded and it would have gone. But it didn't, and it survived, and it lived a long career for a ship. And it wasn't in an ice field, and it wasn't nighttime. It was the middle of the day in a river in England.
On the Titanic's sister ship, the Olympic. But her friends convinced her to join the legendary ship's crew. This time, she was never called on deck to help passengers and never boarded Lifeboat 16. She continued working on the Titanic until her retirement, meaning she was never taken on as a nurse of the Britannic. And in November 1915, it didn't become the third shipwreck, 16. She continued working on the Titanic until her retirement, meaning she was never taken on as a nurse of the Britannic. And in November 1915...
They got the date wrong. Okay, I'm gonna accept it this time. I'm gonna accept that they got the date wrong this time. And, I'm gonna be fine with it, because I get the date wrong on shipwrecks like that sometimes. Usually in cases like that. Like what they just did. Britannic sank in 1916, not 1915. um, but I'd probably make a mistake like that. So if they make a mistake, I am likely to make, well, not decently likely to make, then I'm probably gonna accept it a little.
It
A
didn't
little.
become the third shipwreck Jessup would survive.
It wasn't the third shipwreck. It was the second. Olympic never sunk.
Bandmaster Wallace Hartley went on the voyage to make new possible contacts for future work, but he kept playing to entertain passengers. This time, he never played music to a panicked crowd of people while the ship was sinking.
He played
He
with like 6 or
survives.
7 other
He
people.
goes home to his fiancée, gets married, and starts a family. He continues entertaining people on the North Atlantic run. This time, his mourning fiancée never received his violin, and the historic Titanic memorabilia was never sold in 2013 for $1.7 million. Bertha Main met the love of her life, Quig Baxter, in Brussels while he was traveling with his mother and sister. Baxter wanted to take Main with him, so he secretly booked her a cabin under the name Mrs. de Villiers. This time, he never had to guide his family to a lifeboat. His family met his girlfriend. Baxter wanted to take Main with him, so he secretly booked her a cabin under the name Mrs. de Villiers. This time, he never had to guide his
How is this physically possible?
family to a lifeboat.
This shouldn't be physically possible.
His
The lifeboat should not be upheld nearly level by one rope on one side of the ship. Not the ship, on the boat. That's not even connected to the davits. It's just kind of holding on to the lifeboat. What was that? Lifeboat 1-3, lifeboat 5. Gee, why is it sinking backwards? Why is it sinking backwards?
family met his girlfriend when they got off the ship, not on Lifeboat 6. This time, Baxter survived. He returned to Canada with his girlfriend, and she never went back to Europe alone. Maine's nephew would never find a shoebox in her closet with memories from the Titanic. Dorothy Gibson was playing bridge that night with a couple of New York bankers. When she went back to her stateroom with her mother, she never heard that long, sickening crunch and never got on Lifeboat 7. And in May 1920,
What class was Dorothy? What class was Dorothy Gibson in? I'm pretty sure she was in first class, wasn't she? Yeah. And, yeah, she got first class tickets. So, I doubt they would have heard a great big crash. Probably just a bump. Hang on. Did Dorothy Gibson hear a crash on Titanic? The collision with the iceberg at 11:40 p.m. sounded to Gibson like a long-drawn, sickening scrunch. Okay, I stand slightly corrected.
12, she doesn't star in a movie about surviving the Titanic because there was no crash to survive.
The year was 1854, and the SS Arctic, the fastest passenger liner of its time, set out to cross the Atlantic.
Why the Arctic? The Arctic?
when she went back to her stateroom with her mother. She never heard that long, sickening crash and never got on Lifeboat 7. And in May 1912, she doesn't star in a movie about surviving the Titanic because there was no crash to survive.
The year was 1854, and the SS Arctic, the fastest passenger liner of its 10 days.
Why did it just... Why did it just clip to a video on the Arctic?
Rituals
And this doesn't look like the Arctic.
Antarctic explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton.
Ernest Shackleton, of course.
Scientist who laid eyes on it decades later.
Right. I'm gonna leave it there. Because I don't want to react to 3 of Brightside's videos. I'm perfectly happy with just 1. So, I hope you all enjoyed it, found it interesting. If you want me to do another one, please let me know. We will see. Because these reaction videos are now one of the only videos I can very easily, at least, do. I can probably do my normal videos, kinda. I don't know. But anyways, hope you all enjoyed it, found it interesting, and I'll see you all next one. Have a great day, everybody, and peace out.